mayor of Nagasaki was shot in the chest merely for stating his belief that Emperor Hirohito bore some responsibility for World War II.
Katsuichi Honda, a popular journalist and author, wrote detailed accounts of the atrocities, and because of death threats, has worn a wig and dark glasses in public ever since.
中国の旅というね、ルポを書いたわけですね。その記憶にある人たちで生き残っている人たち、それにひたすら聞き歩くことを一番重点を置いたわけですね。脅迫もあったし、それから会社にはもちろんだけど、私の自分の家にも来ましたよね。だから私が留守の間に家族に子供の幼稚園、子供が行ってるところまで、小学校まで行ったんだから、それでこれはちょっと危険だと思ってね、それから家を引っ越してしまって、以後はもう住所を公表しないことにした。
She received some very ugly hate mail. For that reason, she kept her address private. I never even had her private phone number. I emailed her on everything. I never had her address. She was concerned about safety, but she certainly wasn't going to stop.
And yet there are people in Japan, prominent businessmen, politicians, academics, so not just the lunatic fringe, who say that the whole thing is a lie, that the massacre never happened. It's incredible.
Nanjing, no ma'am. We did not commit any massacre there in 1937.
None?
That was fabricated, complete fabrication by the Chinese.
You don't think eyewitness testimonies, Japanese soldiers' diaries, and film footage, and international...
Oh, those film footages were made up by the National Chinese Propaganda Ministry.
Unfortunately, a mountain of evidence on the Nanking Massacre, including thousands of archival materials in 4 different languages, as well as photographic and motion picture evidence and widespread news coverage, has not deterred these Japanese extremists from dismissing it all as propaganda or forgeries.
We may have killed a few thousand, but certainly not in the order of 100,000, 200,000, or 300,000.
Nobody was out there with their calculator, click, 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 that many people die, oh, that many people were raped. I mean, nobody will ever know. So if the debate is always fixated on getting the right number, and you can't say anything until you get the right number, the debate will never go forward. And I think when people see interviews with survivors, or hear interviews with them, they suddenly realize this did happen. It cannot be denied any longer.
不要戳母亲，不要戳母亲。这日本兵不听，这痛倒的这个时候呢，我的弟弟掉在地下，哇，在地下哭。那日本兵抓着刺刀走我弟弟屁股才没刺到，就把我弟弟摔得好远。这个时候，我看着把我弟弟摔得好远啊，哭洞一下子摔在地下，我的弟弟哇哭，我就赶快跑过去，趴到我弟弟身上，叫他不要哭，你不要哭，我保护你，我就趴在他的身上。我的姐姐。 也拼命的，站在鬼子边缘讲不要戳妈妈，不要戳妈。那鬼子呢也拔着刺刀戳我姐姐，把我姐姐也戳倒了。这个时候呢，日本兵又开始戳我的弟弟了，我的弟弟一个一个被他全部捅死了。就在这个时候，我要大哭大喊的，不要戳我妈妈，不要戳妈妈。这时候我看他戳我弟弟，我喊弟弟也不走，最后我昏过去了。 我就绕了死人堆，底下全是血。跨过死人以后，我就向那边走，顺着那个声音走，结果看到了两边都是死人。可是我弟弟向前面爬，我就把他抱过来， 抱过来一看，那个身上的血直朝地下掉，就结成冰了。那个天特别冷，我就抱着我的弟弟，轻轻地跑到找我妈妈，把他放到我妈妈身边。这时候我妈妈看到我弟弟来了，我妈妈挣扎的拼命在那个拽衣服，主要是把衣服拽下来给我弟弟吃来。这时候我弟弟爬到我妈妈面前，拼命的吸奶。我弟弟也不懂事，他小，他就知道喝奶，但是在他吃奶的时候，我妈妈呼吸的那个刀口在冒血泡泡，我看了非常难过。但是我就拼命的推，说妈妈，你醒来，你醒来啊！我推他，他也不想。
They were trained.
How do you mean trained?
By the Chinese authority to say those lines.
They were given these stories?
Yes.
I looked into the survivors' eyes, and I heard their stories. For people to say they've made it all up, that's just unbelievable. The Japanese should listen to their own soldiers, and they should look into the eyes of the survivors themselves. Because this mindset is exactly what led to the massacre in the first place.
She was arguing or she'd get angry, she'd get emotional. Not because of a personal attack, because they deny. Why people don't want to face the truth?
The problem is that the conservative political elite more or less tries to promote collective amnesia. And so they have been whitewashing this history for decades. Japan needs to make a dramatic gesture that shows that it takes responsibility for what happened, acknowledges the extent of those atrocities, and is committed to continue to teach about those, to make sure that this is not forgotten. And my feeling is the revisionists are shooting themselves in the foot. The more that they try to deny, minimize, shift responsibility, the more of a backlash they're attracting. And this isn't just from overseas, it's from within Japan as well.
In recent years, a multi-ethnic grassroots movement has emerged internationally to combat these efforts to rewrite history. A movement that includes not only the Chinese, the Koreans, the Filipinos, leading members of the Jewish community, but also many Japanese Americans, Japanese Canadians, and Japanese nationals who recognize that human rights issues transcend those of nationality and ethnicity.
ここ南京の地に来て分かりますように、私たち日本人はたくさんの罪を犯しております。罪には責任が伴うんですね。まず、戦争で、大きな被害を受けられた方々に、その、直接の、賠償、それから謝罪をするというのは、当然のことですけれども、同時に私たち日本人が私たち自身の歴史を自分たちのものにしていくっていうですね、そういう意味でも重要だというふうに思ってるわけです。自分がですね、どういう歴史の上に今あるのかっていうことをしっかり知っていくっていうことは、同時に今とこれからの未来をどう生きていくかっていうですね、その戒めとなっていくというふうに思っています。
我希望日本政府能够承认错误，承认侵略不对，能够向人民低头，向人民认罪负罪， 那我心里才能平衡，不然我们心中平衡不了。啊。
Her next book was The Chinese in America. She told me numerous times she considered that sort of a holiday project, a vacation after all of the atrocities of Nanking. Emotionally, it was a little bit easier on her, so I think on several levels she felt more ready to have the family, and also that it was just time. She was over the moon when Christopher came.
And she seemed to me throughout the period of Rape of Nanking and well into the period of the Chinese in America, focused on the future, thinking about new projects, happy with her family life, happy with the increasing visibility of the Chinese American organizations that she cared about greatly.
We, the people and the fighting forces of the United States, in our own blood.
Next night, you let us swim in Manila Bay.
Research for my fourth book started with an oral history project on Bataan POWs. It was an American veteran who wrote and asked me to tell their stories. The same day the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, they also attacked the Philippines, and about 10,000 U.S. and 70,000 Filipino soldiers were forced to surrender. And that led to what became known as the Bataan Death March.
When we do these interviews and talk to these veterans, it's difficult. It's difficult to hear the stories and to read the accounts of what these men went through and what they experienced. You walk away with these thoughts sort of burdening you. I can only imagine that after 11 months of, again, dealing with this topic and hearing these stories over and over, that must have been a tremendous weight, a tremendous emotional burden.
I think she took it on because she believed the story needed to be told. She saw herself as a facilitator for those who had been muted by others, by those in authority, by those who had an interest in not hearing these stories be told.
And justice for all means justice for all. And she was not looking for justice for Chinese or for the victims of the Nanking massacre. She was looking for justice for all.
You know, her experience with what she learned writing The Rape of Nanking, she was afraid of concentrated power in government. And so some of the things that the Bush administration was doing just completely set her off. I mean, she would react very, very strongly to that.
22 pistol out of his holster.
You know, I lie awake at night with the voices of the Bataan survivors going round and round in my head. Just like Nanking.
The guy's Filipino there.
Voices are different. The details are different. The language is different, but the story's the same. But these men, just like the people in Nanking, poured their hearts out to me. Somebody had to listen, to record it, and validate their experience by making it public. I couldn't turn away. Just like I couldn't turn away before. And I also think it's important to remember these stories, to remind us that no matter how civilized we think we are, it doesn't take much for us to get to the point where we can massacre each other without a second thought. And in the end, I'm left with one question. When will the madness end?
And sometimes she didn't tell us as much. She just kept to herself, working all the time.
At that time, she was complaining that she couldn't eat, she couldn't sleep.
it seemed like it was worse than it had ever been before.
We noticed she is very exhausted. That's how I feel her health go down. And she couldn't eat very well either. She didn't have much appetite and couldn't sleep well. And of course, we are very concerned.
Yeah. She had a baby. She already had the 4th book to write and all the other things. Yeah. And somehow it's just too much for her.
She was going on a research tour, and she was getting ready for that. She wasn't sleeping during the day. She was up all day, and she was up all night, and she was up all day, and she was up all night. So she was probably up for 3 or 4 days straight before she went on the trip.
She felt she just had to get out there and interview as many of these survivors as she could as quickly as possible. That time was against them and against her. One Monday, I checked my messages on the voicemail, and there was a call that said, "It's me," no name, but I knew who it was. "Help, I'm in Kentucky, and this number helped me." And I called the number, and it was a hotel, and all they told me was that Iris had checked out.
She physically broke down in August when during the trip she interviewed survivor of the Batam death march. It's only 3 months, so it happened very fast. Yes, we really a lot of questions we couldn't answer.
I was up there twice after her collapse in Kentucky. And, both times she was very flat. I think her drive, her optimism, all of those defining characteristics, it was just, it was like she was suddenly flat. Whereas before she was just a vibrant ball of energy.
After she had her breakdown, she was depressed, and then the medicine that she was given made her even more sluggish. They thought it would be a long, long time before she was, back to normal. Or probably never back to normal.
And she knew she wasn't herself. On some level she did know that. And something, had profoundly changed for her.
She was very sad and very frightened. She was, I felt, very cognizant of losing the person she once was. And then Iris Chang was gone and would never come. No medicine, no therapy was ever going to bring it back. And she knew it.
After she died, it seems part of me died too. But I try to think more positively now because she died so young. I think we can do is to continue her unfinished work and her dream.
You are going to find that we live in a world in which international law has much less to do with actual justice than international politics and money. A world in which those who have power often believe that they are above the truth. My greatest hope is that a few of you in this auditorium today will actually serve as crusaders for truth, beauty, and justice in the future. People like that are needed to create a better world for the next generation of humankind on this planet and to ensure the survival of our civilization. Please believe in the power of one. One person can make an enormous difference in this world. One person, actually just one idea, can start a war or end one. You as one individual can change millions of lives. So think big. Do not limit your vision, and do not ever compromise your dreams or ideals.
I gave voice to the voiceless. Now I'm silencing my own. What I've left behind. Remember, in you, my spirit lives on. Find my light, pass it on. Find my light, pass it on. Just a little child, they took it all away. Your blood, your life, your trust, your faith. You died, reborn in pain. Red as the river, looming large, the gate. Darkness in your heart, drowning in hate. I'll dedicate my life to get your stories told. I'll give voice to the voiceless, silenced for too long. Crying out for justice, silence for too. Trust me with your pain. I'll take it as my own. I'll fight to get the truth told. My weapon is my word. One more time, remember the horror, the pain. They raped you of your pride, robbed you of your dignity. Speak of how they stole your peace, screaming to cease. I'll give voice to the voiceless, silenced for too long. Crying out for justice, silenced for too. Trust me with your pain. I'll take it as my own. I'll fight to get the truth told. My weapon is my word. It's done. The pages filled with blood and tears. Not in vain, the world will finally sing my own. What I've left behind, remember, in you my spirit lives on. Find my light, pass it on. Find my light, pass it